So there is one community in the Muslim world who have overblown the scientific narrative, but I would also say that there are Islam haters who have also overblown the narrative of the other side, right? So they have overblown the scientific errors narrative, right? Which also has those same biases, right? Which also has those same biases. The thing is that the Muslim group which have overblown the scientific narrative thing, they only like to play on scenario 1, and the Islam haters group, they only like to play on the scenario 5. So both of these are very localized positions, very reductionist positions. Good slide, and I would encourage other Muslims to take a nuanced and sophisticated position, right? It's not just reduced to scenario number 1 where Islam and science completely agree, or Islam and science number 5 like Islam and science completely disagree. The Islam haters will like to magnify the 5th scenario because they want to show Muslims as anti-science people, right? As if we don't follow. And these scientific miracle groups, right? They like to overblow the 1st scenario, which also has problems, right? Because when you overblow the 1st scenario, it almost feels like that you are giving scientific truths and authority over religious truth, right? So it's better to take a sophisticated approach. It's better to take a multifaceted approach and an intellectual approach towards this thing. Okay, assalamu alaikum. I was just watching one of Logicked video where he was talking about the problem of religion with science, or Islam with science, right? And I think he made a good point, and I'll be addressing that point. So just have a listen.
Take a moment to address the great many Muslims who I know will lean on science to confirm parts of the Quran, but ignore everything else in science, even the stuff that's directly related to what they quoted that doesn't confirm the Quran. Those ones will say, Alhamdulillah, the Quran says life originated in water and science confirms it. Just forget everything else science says about the origin of life. Oh, and also humans are made out of clay. Doing that simultaneously presents science as something you take as authoritative and also as a total non-authority, not depending on the quality of science, but depending solely on what's written in the Quran. So if you act like the only valid science is whatever happens to agree with the Quran and everything that disagrees with it is to be ignored, what you're doing is invalidating the authority you're trying to lean on, and only really validating the Quran by reading the Quran, not by reading the scientific literature. And so your supposed scientific confirmation of the Quran is really just another way of saying that the Quran is true because the Quran says it's true. Pure, unadulterated circular reasoning, just obfuscated by a transparently fake appeal to an authority that you don't even think is an authority.
Okay, very good. I think it's a very good discussion. But I would say actually that I would openly say that we as Muslims do believe that there are scientific truths. We do believe that. We as Muslims also believe that there are religious truths, right? And we as Muslims also believe that sometimes the scientific truths and religious truths, they sort of get together. They link together, they amalgamate, right? So there shouldn't be any problem. He's trying to suggest, logic is trying to suggest that sometimes when science goes against religion, right? I don't know any scenario, but let's just say hypothetical Darwinian evolution, right? That science goes against Islam, right? So then Muslims will say, no, religious truth should take precedence over scientific truth. And yes, I would openly say that. I would openly say that when a religious truth clashes with scientific truth, religious truth will take precedence. I will openly say that, because religious truths are based upon Allah's knowledge, the eternal knowledge, whereas scientific truths are based upon human's mind or human knowledge. So this is very clear. The thing is, he is actually blaming the Muslims, that Muslims are picking and choosing only those scientific things that sort of to enhance the value of Islamic truths, right? So this is a biased approach, right? He's trying to insinuate that. Well, I would say that I would partly agree with this. And I would say that there are two sides of the arguments, two sides of the argument. And this is where I think that the scientific miracle thing, which has been overblown by some group in the Muslim community, is not a very good idea of making, I mean, it almost sort of magnifies this idea that Muslims are taking science as authority over religion, right? Which Logicked rightly pointed out. I think this is the problem. And he made a good point on this. Muslims shouldn't overblow the scientific miracle narrative, just like even Zakir Naik and these people kind of, I think, overblew this, right? Which isn't right, right? I would openly say it, that when you overblow the scientific miracle narrative, you are almost giving science an authority over religion, which has a lot of chronic problems, right? Long-term problems. So there is one community in the Muslim world who have overblown the scientific narrative, but I would also say that there are Islam haters who have also overblown the narrative of the other side, right? So they have overblown the scientific errors narrative, right? Which also has those same biases, right? Which also has those same biases. And so both these groups, these Islam hater groups and these the Muslim scientific miracle narrative group, right? Both of these groups have sort of a reductionist, localized approach towards this. So I would just like to share my view, my long-term view, my lengthy view, sorry. Just share my slide. Yeah, this is a slide which, this is the slide which I prepared, right? See if you can, yeah. So I sort of made 5 scenarios, right, where science and religion sort of amalgamate. And the thing is that the Muslim group which have overblown the scientific narrative thing, they only like to play on scenario 1, and the Islam haters group, they only like to play on the scenario 5. So both of these are very localized positions, very reductionist positions. And I would say that number 1 and number 5 do not actually represent even 80 or 90% of the reality. 80 or 90% of the reality is found in the scenario 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So let me just go through these, right? And what approach we Muslims should use. We Muslims should use these 5 scenarios whenever we are comparing Islamic truths versus scientific truths. We should use these 5 scenarios. so that we can have a sophisticated approach of representing scientific truths versus Islamic truths, right? So number one is when both Islam and science completely agree on a factual statement. For example, relativity of time, Einstein's theory of relativity versus Quran chapter 70 verse 4, which talks about, I think, that when angels are carrying their message, so a day to them is like the 50,000 years. So Quran numerous times speaks about this relativity, hints towards relativity of time, right? So in these scenarios, we can say that both Islamic truth and scientific truth are co-equally correct, which represents a scientific accuracy in the Quran, right? So, and by the way, we shouldn't use each and every accuracy as a scientific miracle, right? I think we should say that there are multiple scientific accuracies, and when we combine them, then it shows a uniqueness of the scientific narrative in the Quran or scientific miracle, right? Now, get to number 5. Look at number 5, when both Islam and science completely disagree. So this is just one scenario among the 5 scenarios, right? And to be honest, I haven't seen any scenario where Islam and science completely disagree with each other. But let's just say this overblown narrative of Darwinian evolution, right? Let's just say, because even evolution, is a part of biology, and biology is a soft science. It's not a hard science. So all these soft sciences will always have these theories. And whenever you are studying about evolution, you will always find 4 or 5 theories together. Darwinian evolution has a lot of explanatory power. That's why it is commonly used, but it's not like no scientist will speak like Darwinian evolution is like a hard fact, right? Because whenever you will read any book on evolution, you will always find 4 or 5 theories together, like creationism, Lamarckism, neo-Lamarckism, Darwinism, neo-Darwinism, epigenetic inheritance, and genomic evolution. So you will find these different theories together, which is the nature of soft science. All soft sciences work like this, right? Different models, different theories to explain things, right? So it's not like these are hard facts. Darwinian evolution is like a hard fact. It has a very good explanatory power. But let's just say, right, human beings came from apes, right? Let's just say that it is a fact, and Islam says that no, Adam and Eve was created and human beings evolved from them, right? Let's just say Islam and science disagrees with it completely. In this scenario, we should openly say that, right, yeah, Islamic truth or religious truth takes precedence over scientific truth. Why? Because, as I already explained, Islamic truth comes from revelation, Quran, which comes from Allah's knowledge, which is eternal, right? But don't sort of reduce our argument to this, right? Don't overblow this scientific error narrative as well, right? Because there are other things, other scenarios as well, like number 2, when both Islam and science partially agree. For example, medical benefits of black seed and honey. You will find multiple peer-reviewed articles showing medical benefits of black seed and honey. And you will also find multiple ahadith of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, showing medical benefits of black seed and honey. So on those things, we can say that the part that's common between the two can be agreed upon, right? So most of the things actually are not reduced to number 1 and number 5. So number 3, what about the third scenario, when science speaks about a thing as a fact and Islam is silent on that thing? I mean, those scenarios also exist. Most of the scientific reality are based on scenario number 3, right? For example, Pythagoras theorem. On those things, we Muslims clearly say that we will follow the scientific truth. So 80 to 90% of science is based upon scenario number 2, 3, and 4. We openly say that we will say that those are scientific truths on the number 3rd scenario, right? Why are you only playing on number 5? This is what I asked to the 5th scenario. Scientific error narrative the reason why they like to play, these reductionist atheists and Islam haters like to play on this fifth scenario, is because they want to show they want to show that Muslims are anti-science people, right? That's why they like to play. But not even 1% of reality is lies upon this scenario number 5. Most of the reality of scientific truths lie on scenario number 1 and 3, right? 1, 2, and 3. There is also this let me just go through this last one. Fourth scenario, when Islam speaks about a thing as a fact and science is silent. So on those things, we'll openly say that Islamic truth will we will follow the Islamic truth, right? Or religious truth. For example, God's existence, Allah's existence, right? Science is silent on that, but we will follow religious truth. So this is a very good slide, and I would encourage other Muslims to take a nuanced and sophisticated position, right? It's not just reduced to scenario number 1, where Islam and science completely agree, or Islam and science number 5, like Islam and science completely disagree. The Islam haters will like to magnify the 5th scenario because they want to show Muslims as anti-science people, right? As if we don't follow. And these scientific miracle groups, right? They like to overblow the first scenario, which also has problems, right? Because when you overblow the first scenario, it almost feels like that you are giving scientific truths and authority over religious truth, right? So it's better to take a sophisticated approach. It's better to take a multifaceted approach and an intellectual approach towards this thing, and say to them that most of the reality is not just present in the first or the 5th scenario, but it has a lot more other scenarios as well. And with that, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.